Hey everyone, Combo here, back with another Empires and Puzzles video, and today I'm going to go through my ranking from worst to first of the heroes in the November 2025 Soul Exchange event. I put out a video a couple days ago when the Soul Exchange heroes were leaked. That was just kind of a quick first initial thoughts of the 15 heroes, but in today's video I'm going to do my normal ranking of all 15 of those heroes, and it does not matter if they cost 10 souls, if they cost 15, or if they cost 20, because there are some heroes, especially in that 15 soul exchange option, that I think are better than some of those 20 soul exchange options. Real quick before we get started, if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and turn that notification bell on so you can be alerted of when I drop new content. And if you really love my videos, consider becoming a member by clicking the join button next to where it says subscribed. By becoming a member, you have access to hero one-on-one advice with me on either the Line app or on Discord, early access to some videos, and some cool avatars as well. And the hero card previews that I'm going to show you today are mostly taken from the game with the max preview option, where it takes the talent path all the way to the left. There is at least one card, Hetepheres, that I was not able to find one of those max preview options, so I was actually able to get it from somebody who I know has the card, and they of course went the defense and health path, which I'll pinpoint that when we get to Hetepheres. But some of these cards could have also gotten buffs since the images were available, so keep in mind that some of these stats might be slightly off, but they should be correct for the most part. And without further ado, let's get into my rankings. Coming in at number 15, I've got Ojima. This card was a stud back in their day and still can be useful, but the stats are just so outdated. This is the worst stats for a card out of any of these 15 heroes by far. Like, I want to say it's over 100 individual power that Ojima's stats are compared to the next lowest individual power. You can see with the max preview stats that Ojima has 1253 attack, 1021 shield, and 2045 health. And for their special, they are fast mana speed. They first destroy all minions from all enemies. This does also damage mega minions, deals 275% damage to all enemies, then deals an additional 30% damage to all enemies for each minion destroyed. And Ojima adds a stack where all enemies get plus, or rather minus 7% mana generation for each destroyed minion. So Ojima obviously shines in Minion Wars or Undead Horde War, because you've got the potential to get that minus 70% mana generation for each destroyed minion right off the bat, honestly, after that first turn, or rather, I guess it would be minus 35% mana generation, because you could get up to 5. That's assuming they don't have any other minions from any of the other heroes that they have. So Ojima has some use, really, depending on what type of level of player you are, but they are going to die so quickly because of their low stats that they have. Obviously, you could go the defense and health path, because I was mentioning with the max previous stats, it shows the talent path all the way to the left, which does not include obviously the shield talent nodes for the masterclass emblem. So you could add at least 180 shield. So you'd be looking at about 1200, which is still very low at this point in the game right now. I wish that they got a costume or some sort of buff, but the way their stats are right now, they are not going to last very long in most scenarios. And that is really the main reason why I have them at number 15. I wanted to put them higher. I just felt like they didn't stack up against everybody else. Moving on to number 14 was another hero I really wanted to put higher, but the more I looked at her card, the more I realized that there are just better revivers out there. Even if you are a low level player or a mid level player, I really think that Lysanor is worth passing on. Lysanor is slow mana speed, and when they cast their special, each fallen ally has a 55% chance to get revived with 20% health. All allies get plus 50% attack for 5 turns. The attack is increased by 5% each turn up to plus 70%. And then all allies regenerate 770 boosted health over 5 turns. Boosted health can exceed max HP. It's really that last part that makes her so useless, for lack of a better word. 770 health over 5 turns is like 155 health or something like that each turn, which is really not a lot. She does have a health recovery on buff received passive, so this character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack, and then also a mana on buff received, so they gain 5% mana when receiving a buff or a positive stack. So I know that there is slow mana speed. People who have her say that she really activates more like an average mana speed hero because of that 5% mana that she gains when she receives a buff. If you want to grab Lysanor, she will cost you 10 souls. And I did forget to mention for Ojima, also he will cost 10 souls if you wanted to grab him. And also worth noting that Ojima is a bard, so bards give all solo family members an extra 5% mana generation, and by solo family members you just can't have another member of the other hero's family, so you can't have like two classic season 1 heroes on the same team. You can only have one season 1 classic hero. The one bard would be one of them, obviously, and then you could have like a goblin, a garrison guard, and like a construct core family member or something like that, so long as each member of the family isn't duplicated on that team. And both Ojima and Lysanor are eligible for Hero Coach at this point right now, so if you did want to grab either of them, you could use them in Hero Coach, which should be coming back in December. Moving on to number 13, I've got Elani. She was a Hero of the Month back in March earlier this year, actually of 2025, so she will not be eligible for Hero Coach until March 1st of 2027. That is a long ways away. I don't generally recommend grabbing Heroes of the Month in Soul Exchange, but she does have pretty good stats. As you can see here, she's got a total individual power of 1410, which is significantly higher than Ojima that we just looked at a couple cards ago, and then even higher than Lysanor, obviously. Eliani does have a couple good passives. The first is Mana on Burn. This character gains 5% mana each time an enemy receives burn damage, and this character has innate resistance to burn damage, which does include the Molten Core damage from the Untold Tales 2 heroes that have the Molten Core. It does not resist against the Arctic Core heroes, but it will resist against the Molten Burn or Molten Core heroes like Ott and Dueler Filler and Dagger and a couple of those other ones. And for her special, she is average mana speed. She deals 300% damage to all enemies. All enemies receive 640 burn damage over 4 turns, and then she dispels buffs from all enemies. I do wish that the dispelling of buffs was before the damage, but she's a Hero of the Month, so I guess that probably would have made her a little bit too, I don't want to say overpowered, but a little too useful. And if she did dispel first, honestly, she probably would have been higher on this list. She does also give an elemental link, as all Heroes of the Month do, where she gives all fire allies plus 30% defense against special skills for 4 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. Overall, I do feel like Eliana is a decent Hero of the Month when she did come out. So if you were not able to pull her back when she was available last March, or if you weren't part of the game yet and you've only got 10 souls to give and you want a good attacking red hero, then Eliani could be a decent option for you. Moving on to number 12, I've got Nogu. He will not be eligible for Hero Coach until February 8th of 2026. So again, Hero Coach is scheduled to come back in December, and then we should get it back in March. So he would be available in March. Nogu has a bunch of passives. First is Mana buff on status ailment, receives plus 24% mana generation for 3 turns when this character receives a status ailment or negative stack. He's also got a Mana on health boosting special skill. This character gains 10% mana each time an enemy casts a special skill that boosts health, and then health boost on enemy health boost. This character gets 450 boosted health each time an enemy casts a special skill that directly boosts health. So as you can see from his passives, he's very useful against healers that boost health, and his special compounds on top of that, actually. So he is fast mana speed, deals 460% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies receive 504 bleed damage over 3 turns, and then for the next 3 turns, the target and nearby enemies convert all boosted health recovered to max health reduction. Max health is reduced more for targets that have boosted health already, and max health cannot get lower than 30% of the original health. So Nogu obviously is very useful against heroes that give boosted health. If you did decide that you wanted to grab Nogu, you definitely want to make sure that you bring him against heroes that give boosted health, which I feel like there's not a ton of them out there at this point right now, because most of the health boosters can't heal nearly as much as percentage heal boosters or percentage healers. So just keep that in mind, but he is still very useful against health boosters, obviously. Moving on to number 11, the last of our 10 soul options. I've got Phantom of the Opera, and all of the heroes that I've talked about so far all are 10 souls. Phantom of the Opera is eligible for Hero Coach if you wanted to grab him, and then he's got a couple passives. The first is Heal on Status Ailment Expiration. This character receives 10% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated from them. This effect can activate only once per turn. And then he's also got the Resisting of Defense ailments. This character has innate resistance to status ailments that affect defense, does not apply to status ailments that affect elemental defense. And he is average mana speed, deals 405% damage to the target and nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies dance to the Ballad of Obsession for 4 turns. All existing status effects will be removed when this effect is added. And then with that Ballad of Obsession, while they're dancing, those 3 enemies will get minus 40% mana generation, minus 40% decrease for any healing received, and then also gives immunity to new status effects. New dance effects will replace this effect, and this effect cannot be dispelled. This effect is removed when the caster dies. So if Phantom of the Opera does die, then the dancing will end. All of this is very similar to all of the other dancing effects, but dancing can be very useful for enemies on teams that have like unique specials. This would also even apply to like the Guruk effect, and I know that Guruk isn't as overpowered as he was before the nerf, but just giving that as an example of a type of buff that Phantom of the Opera would block, and obviously it's going to block any type of buff. One thing that you would want to be cautious of as far as who you are going up against if you decide to choose Phantom of the Opera is any bards that have the passive where all dances only last for one turn. So some of those are Astrid and Salamata, and I think Bonzo has that as well. So decent attack 3-hitter. Dancing is always very useful. So combination of those two factors is why I've got him as our highest rank 10 soul option here at number 11. Moving on to number 10, we've got our first 15 soul option here with Satori. Satori has quite a few passives also. The first is mana generation, ailment protection. All status ailments and negative stacks that affect mana generation will be replaced by a plus 30% mana generation status effect for 3 turns. Does not apply to status ailments that stop mana generation or that steal mana. He also has mana on buff Dispel. This character receives 10% mana each time a buff is dispelled from this character. This effect can activate only once per turn. And then he also has heal boost on buff Dispel. This character receives 200 boosted health each time a buff is dispelled from this character. This effect can activate only once per turn. So taking Satori up against Dispellers is very good, obviously with his passives and also with his special skill, which we're going to go over right now. He is average mana speed. He first deals 275% damage to all enemies, and actually that got buffed since the original version of that, so he deals 315% damage to all enemies actually, and then he deals 630% damage against characters that either cleanse or dispel using special skills. And then the caster and nearby allies have a 55% chance to drop any received damage to 1 for 4 turns. If this effect is dispelled, it dispels buffs from all enemies. So definitely an interesting hero. His stats aren't the greatest compared to some of the other heroes that we're going to talk about, and I just felt like he was a little bit too niche as far as going up against heroes that dispel as part of their special. So I felt like he just wasn't as versatile because of that. As far as Hero Coach goes, he would be eligible, I think, for the December event. We haven't got an official calendar for December. Obviously, we're only 15 days from the end of November, so we're probably not going to get that for at least 10 to 12 days or something like that. But typically these events like Hero Coach, Outfitter event, and Soul Exchange are toward the end of the month. Even Soul Exchange being on the 20th of the month is kind of early, honestly. Usually it's like the 26th or 27th or something like that. So I do expect Satori to be eligible for Hero Coach. It really just depends on when it actually comes out. And so long as it comes out after December 18th, then he would be eligible for Hero Coach. Moving on to number 9, I've actually got our first 20 Soul Exchange option, and that is actually going to be Mena. And Mena is a very useful hero. I just feel like there's a few 15 Soul Exchange options that are extremely useful and a little bit more useful than Mena. Mena is a fun hero, and again, I think that kind of speaks to the fact that we've got some very good heroes in this Soul Exchange. So first, for Mena's passive, he has the Gargoyle's Soft Skin. Every time this character casts their special skill, their Soft Skin activates. The next 4 times they receive damage, it is reduced by minus 90%, and they resist all status ailments, mana reduction, and insanity. This effect cannot be dispelled. And for his special skill, the Fluff in the Air, he has fast mana speed, deals 390% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. At the end of each turn, the caster and nearby allies shoot a fluff volley at a random enemy for 3 turns. Each fluff volley deals 150% damage, and each fluff volley reduces the mana of the hit enemy by 5%. So that all can be very useful. There are just a ton of heroes that resist mana reduction and a bunch of other ones that even gain mana if you try to reduce their mana, like the Astral Dwarves and the Woodland Fawns. Obviously, there's the Garrison Guards that resist mana reduction. There's several other heroes that resist mana reduction as well. And of course, the Toons have a 75% chance to resist mana reduction as well. So I felt like Mena used to be very good, but obviously the combination of the power creep along with the fact that there's so many heroes that resist mana reduction, I just feel like Mena isn't as useful as he once was. The soft skin is very useful, and he's got pretty decent stats. I have him at level 90 with masterclass emblems on the attack side. I went all attack on him, and he's just too squishy in my opinion. He does not last, and that's honestly why I've got him so low here at number 9. And as far as if you wanted to use him for Hero Coach, he would not be eligible for Hero Coach until May 18th of 2026. Based on the schedule currently for Hero Coach, we would likely get Hero Coach back in the following month in June. That's a long ways to wait for a hero for Hero Coach that you grab in Soul Exchange. Moving on to number 8, I've got another 20 Soul Exchange option with Lemonwood, and he was somebody that I really wanted to have higher on this list. He just doesn't hit as hard as he once did when he first came out because of the power creep, and he's just a little too squishy in my opinion. If you did decide to grab him, I would recommend going the defense path on him because he's obviously going to be a lot more useful from a mana control perspective than just a sheer damage perspective, because he's not really going to hit for that much damage. Obviously, that's going to depend on the type of enemies that you go up against in wars, but I think for most people, even that main part of his damage at 380% is really just not going to hit for that much. So he is an Astral Elf. All elves have the shared receive damage passive, so 20% of the damage received by this character is shared with other allies. He also has the resist poison passive. This character is innate, or rather has innate resistance to poison damage. And then for his special, the Wandering Starshot, he has fast mana speed. This special skill never misses its targets, deals 380% damage to the target, reduces the mana of the target by minus 20%. If the target has more than 30% mana after mana reduction, the special skill repeats targeting a random enemy. The damage is reduced on each consecutive hit, and I think the max amount of targets it can hit in a single shot is 9. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it's 9. I don't have Lemonwood, so I wouldn't be able to test it, but I'm pretty sure it's 9. Lemonwood would not be eligible for Hero Coach until March 6th of 2026, and based on the current rotation, we should see Hero Coach again in March. Moving on to number 7, we're going to stick with the Astral Elf family, and this one is actually going to cost you 15 souls compared to the 20 soul option that we just looked at. I've got Sparklight. He was actually one of the 2 initial first Astral Elves that we got in the game. It was actually, I think, Black Friday of 2 years ago in 2023 that we got the first Astral Elves. So when Hero Coach comes back next month, Sparklight actually will be eligible for the Hero Coach program. So definitely something to take into consideration. And then he's got the same passives as Lemonwood that we just looked at with the shared receive damage and the resisting of poison. For his special skill, he has average mana speed. This special skill never misses its targets, deals 430% damage to the target and nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies receive 452 burn damage over 4 turns. The caster and all their allies absorbed 45% of the dealt burn damage as boosted health. The damage and nearby enemies, or rather the target and the nearby enemies, reflect status effect buffs to a random character on the opposing team for 4 turns. Only dispellable buffs are reflected, so that is obviously extremely useful. Any heroes that can cast the ability to reflect buffs definitely could be a game changer against any of those heroes that give those unique buffs. I mean, honestly, even if it's just an increased mana generation or defense or attack buff, obviously all those are going to be very useful, but if it's any other unique buffs like the Guruk effect with the Slime Revive, or heroes like Dark Feather with the extra damage, all of that is going to be very useful. Moving on and sticking with our 15 soul exchange options, I've got Daroga. He's got a couple passives. The first is heal on status ailment expiration. This character receives 10% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated from them. This effect can activate only once per turn. And then he has the resist attack ailment. So this character has innate resistance to status ailments that affect attack. And then for his special skill, he has fast mana speed, deals 535% damage to the target. The target receives 1245 bleed damage over 3 turns. This effect spreads to nearby enemies. He also adds a stack where all allies get plus 25% attack for 4 turns. That stack has a max of 10, so you could have all of your allies have a plus 250% attack for 4 turns. Obviously, that is going to be very useful for Mythic Titans, but it's also going to be useful in regular wars as well. I love the spreading of the bleed damage also. Hard-hitting sniper at fast mana speed. Plus, he's a monk class, so with a legendary troop, which gives 11% mana generation, and the monk talent node from the talent path, he will be able to get down to 7 tiles with a legendary troop and the monk talent node. So definitely worth noting on that. Overall, Daroga looks like a very good card. Hard-hitting sniper, decent stats. The attack stack is extremely useful, obviously, and that bleed damage does escalate. So you can see in this preview, it says up to 1746 bleed damage over 3 turns. That's with the double limit break and talent path that's on this preview card, so it escalates the higher his attack stat goes. As far as Hero Coach, he would not be eligible until March 21st of 2026. So again, based on the current rotation, we're probably going to get Hero Coach back in March. So it really depends on when it comes in March if he would be eligible for that event. All right, moving on to our top 5. We've still got a couple 15 soul exchange options left, and we're going to start off number 5 with Alvar, who will cost you 15 souls. He has a health recovery on buff received. So this character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or a positive stack as part of his passive. And then for his special, he is average mana speed. He first lists all cleansable status ailments from all allies and randomly distributes them on enemies. And then the duration of those status ailments is reset for all enemies. That would go for the ones that you're moving and also ones that were already there. And then he deals 350% damage to all enemies. And then all enemies reflect status effect buffs to a random character on the opposing team for 4 turns. Only dispellable buffs are reflected. So Alvar does a lot, and as you can see, he has very updated stats with a total individual power of 1433. He is kind of a newish card. He's about 15 months old. As you can see, he came out August 4th, or rather August 14th of 2024, so he will not be eligible for Hero Coach until August 14th of 2026. So if you did grab Alvar, you're gonna want to level him up the old school way. But other than Hetepheres in this Soul Exchange event, which has a costume, Alvar actually has the highest total individual power of 1433. So definitely something to take into consideration when you're looking at the shelf life of your heroes. But he's a very useful hero as far as listing the ailments, reflecting status effect buffs, and dealing 350% damage to all enemies. Alvar definitely does a lot. If he dispelled on top of all that, then that would have been really cool, but obviously that would have been a little too much. Moving on to number 4, we have the last of our 15 soul exchange options, and we've got Carta here. Carta is, of course, part of the Construct Core family and has the Repair Core passive. So the Repair Core activates each time this character casts their special skill. With a fully charged Repair Core, Carta will boost the health of all allies by 25%. The healing is scaled by the amount of charge in the core. All charge is exhausted when the core is activated. And that Repair Core will happen after the regular heal from her special, so the boosted health will happen after the regular heal, which is good. And then Carta also has special skill or resist special skill blocking. This character has innate resistance to status ailments that block special skills. That does include silence, of course. And then for Carta's special, average mana speed recovers 45% health for all allies, lists the latest cleansable status ailment from all allies and randomly distributes them on allies, or rather randomly distributes them on enemies. And then all allies get plus 33% mana generation for 3 turns, affects only mana generation from matching tiles or mana gained by the defense team at the end of their turn. So Carta is a great way to speed up your heroes with the increased mana generation, pretty high at plus 33% actually. As far as Hero Coach goes, Carta will not be eligible until April 25th of 2026, so you'd have to wait until the June event. So Carta's another one. If you're gonna grab them, I would recommend leveling them up the old school way. But Carta is a great healer. The combination of the 45% health on top of the Repair Core health as well, that has the potential to heal up to like 70% for your allies. And with the world of fiends and mega fiends that we're living in right now with the veggies, Carta could definitely be a very good option if you are having trouble with all of those veggies. All right, moving on to number 3, we've got another healer here, and that is going to be Hetepheres. I do like Carta, but I think Hetepheres is even better, especially because of the increased stats. And I mentioned earlier in the video, this is the only card that it's actually a version of somebody that I know, so they went the defense and health path, as you can see here. So you can get Costume Hetepheres' defense up to 1856, 3304 health, total individual power of 1593. And actually also worth noting that for Carta, their shield was showing at 1352, but if you went the defense part on the master class emblems and then maybe even some other talent nodes up top, you could definitely get the defense over 1500 and probably closer to 1550, honestly. But back here to Hetepheres, first their special skill. So when you get the costume, which the card in Soul Exchange does come with the costume, that's very important for y'all to know. They have the 100% effects on special skill. So normally with the regular version, this has a 60% chance to happen, boosting the health of all allies by 10%, and then also cleansing the latest cleansable status ailment from all allies. But with the costume, that has a 100% chance to happen, and that, similar to Carta, does happen after the regular heal from their main part of their special. They also have a health recovery on buff as part of their passive, where this character receives 5% health when they receive a status buff. And then for their special skill, they are going to recover 54% health for all allies, and then all allies get plus 64% defense against nature, and a further 3% increase every time they are hit during 4 turns. All enemies also get minus 45% accuracy for 4 turns. Chance to miss also applies to special skills. If you need a good blue healer, Hetepheres would be a great option for you. Has great stats, as you can see, and will definitely last longer in the game because of those increased stats that she's already got. And also, obviously, because of the age of this card, or the original version, she is eligible for Hero Coach. Obviously, you would have to level up the costume, but you can get that main part to 90 with Hero Coach, which comes out next month. All right, we are down to our final 2, and I went back and forth between Darkfeather and Damon, who is going to be number 1, who is going to be number 2. And I think it really depends on what you are looking for from Soul Exchange. Personally, I feel like Damon has more use because of the fact that he's fast mana speed, or very fast mana speed rather, and because of his unique special. I mean, both of them have unique specials. I just feel like Damon is more useful against specific heroes like Bernadette or any other new heroes that come in the game that have unique status buffs or ailments. He was even good against Gurig before the nerf. So that is why I've got Darkfeather here at number 2. And I do think that Darkfeather is a great option to grab. First, he's got a passive, the effects on special skill, so he has a 50% chance to perform the following actions when this character casts their special skill. Deals 90% damage to all enemies, and all enemies get minus 25% accuracy for 3 turns. Anybody who has any of those goblins knows it's more like 80 to 90% of the time that happens. And then for his special skill, the Eagle's Blessing, he is average mana speed. He will first recover 25% health for all allies, gives a growth effect where all allies get 180 attack and 180 defense, and then all allies have a 50% chance to deal 270% damage to a random enemy after any subsequent allied special skill is cast. If you've got 5 purples on your team, if you're running a purple mono team and you use Darkfeather first, and then all 4 of your other purple specials in the same turn, that does activate each time. So chances are you're going to get probably 2 to 3 of your heroes to deal 270% damage to a random enemy each time any of those other special skills go off. So Darkfeather is a lot of fun to use. If you do grab Darkfeather, I highly recommend putting him with other average speed purples, maybe 2 or 3 others. I personally like to run 4-1. I used to do 3-2, but I like the tile damage from 4-1 better with a healer or another support character for the off color. So if I were to use Darkfeather on a team, I would use him with 3 other average speed purples. That way they all fire in the same turn. Obviously there's things like Moth Dust and sorcerers who give negative mana generation, but if you've got Darkfeather with 3 other average speed heroes or average speed purples, then you're not going to have to deal so much with having to potentially time their specials off of each other. And Darkfeather is eligible for Hero Coach. He actually came out in September of 2023, so he's already eligible. He will be eligible in the December event. Definitely a great option. You all know that I love growth heroes, so if you don't have any, and if you don't have Darkfeather, he could be a very good and fun option to you. And honestly, he's probably the most fun hero in this Soul Exchange event. He's extremely fun for Titans and Mythic Titans, great for wars. His stats are obviously a little bit outdated here at 1256. We've been looking at heroes in the 1300s, and Alvar was over 1400, I think 1433, and Hetepheres is obviously almost at 1600 because of the costume bonus. My version of Darkfeather that I went the defense and health path on has 1467 shield and 2378 health. That's going all defense, including the shield masterclass emblems on my Darkfeather. So just something to take into consideration here. You definitely can get that shield higher than 1199. All right, moving on to number 1, I've got Damon. Damon has saved my ass so many times in wars, and as recent as the other day in the midweek war, I was going up against a Bernadette team on my last flag, and I used Salnus to silence Bernadette, and of course the second hit from Salnus hit Hrothgar, and Hrothgar cleansed the silence. And then on the next turn, I was able to get Damon to get his special right before Bernadette went off, and I used Damon on Bernadette, changed the course of the battle because Bernadette went off but was not able to cast the paintings, and I did end up winning that match. But as far as his passives and special go, first he's got the health recovery on buff received. This character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack, and then for his special, he is very fast mana speed, so that's 6.5 tiles. You only need 9% mana generation to get down to 6 tiles, which is a game changer. So obviously you can use any troop that gives mana. Obviously you'd want to use a legendary troop if you've got one. He first dispels buffs from the target, blocks talent silent skill activation for the target for 3 turns, so that's going to block Bernadette from getting the Thorn minions, or if you use Damon on a fighter class, they're not going to be able to revive. Definitely a very useful aspect in his special that I think some people overlook, myself included actually. And then the third part of his special is that he deals 485% damage to the target, and then most importantly, the target cannot cast any new status effects on enemies or allies for 3 turns. This includes stacks. This only includes status effects cast with special skills. Great hero, very fun to use because you only need 2 sets of 3 reds in order to get his special. This is the max preview stats version. If you did decide to go with Damon, I would highly recommend going the defense path on him. That's what I did with my version when I first leveled him up. For me, he's got 1487 attack, 1497 shield, and 2368 health. So actually the health is exactly the same as this shows, just the attack is significantly lower and the shield being higher. And actually, I just went back and looked because the numbers didn't seem to match. I actually went the attack version on him, it looks like, for the top part of the talent path, and then when I added the masterclass emblems, I put the shield masterclass emblems on him. So I just did some quick math by looking at his talent path, and I could have gotten the shield 54 higher, so that would be 1551 or somewhere around there. So just something to take into consideration, but Damon is an extremely useful hero. The fact that he's very fast mana speed is very useful, obviously, and blocking an enemy from not casting any status effect buffs or ailments for 3 turns will always be useful in this game. He's very useful against Bernadette. He's useful against Gurik, even before the Gurik nerf. Any other enemies who cast these weird buffs or ailments, Damon is going to be very useful against. And that is why I've got him here at number 1 and why I'm considering grabbing a second one of him, honestly. Unfortunately, he is not eligible for the December Hero Coach event. He came out January 9th of 2024, so he'll be eligible on January 9th of 2026. Lots of great heroes in this Soul Exchange event. I feel like this one is definitely better than the last time around. Let me know who you are thinking about grabbing in Soul Exchange, and that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy it or found it helpful. If you did, hit that like button. Make sure you sub to my channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.